The early 2000s were a great time to grow up as a Spider-Man fan. On the comic front, we had both Paul Jenkins and J. Michael Straczynski's runs on the character. Ultimate Spider-Man was still a novelty and hadn't gotten terrible yet because Brian Michael Bendis doesn't have the attention span to write a comic run that long uninterrupted. Toy Biz Spidey action figures were breaking the mold with hyper-articulated toys that pioneered the new standard for collectors old and young. Spider-Man's games were nearly consistent genre-defining bangers that whole 10 years, and of course, after decades, Spider-Man made his debut in a live-action movie from Sam Raimi, director of the Evil Dead franchise.
You talking back to me?
Hype for the movie was at an all-time high, and deservedly so because it's a damn good movie that changed the face of superhero cinema forever. One of the best parts of Spider-Man Fever was all the tie-in material, and that included a brand new video game built off the bones of the PS1 Spidey series. But with improved graphics, gameplay, and animations only the next-gen consoles could deliver. I generally think nostalgia obsession is cringy, but even I have to admit, what a time to be alive! I was just young enough to remember 9/11, but not old enough to be gripped with existential terror over it because I was too busy playing Spider-Man games. So let's travel back to a time that seemed innocent through the eyes of a child, and look at Spidey's first ever movie tie-in game, developed by Treyarch before they were banished to the Call of Duty mines by the Activision overlords. Join me as we go for the ultimate spin. Man, that's so 2000s. We need some baggy jorts and frosted tips and we're set.
To the MTV Movie Awards.
Oh, I miss games like this. Maybe they don't make movie tie-in games like they used to on the PS2, but thankfully we still have games to play based on the latest Spider-Man movie. Brand new day thanks to this video's sponsor, Marvel Strike Force. And right now, in celebration of Spider-Man Brand New Day, it's the perfect time to jump into Marvel Strike Force if you've never played it before. Jump into the live Webs Assemble Spider-Man event. Whether you're excited for Brand New Day or just want to smash through your enemies, now's the perfect time to start playing Marvel Strike Force. This is a 4-week-long event with new game codes, costumes, and content, the Spider-Man Tower and Saga, and the new legendary Scorpion Breaker character with a new game mode for unlock. With instant access to Spider-Man, Hulk, and more if you use my code SPIDEY and a chance to unlock that beautiful Brand New Day costume I love so much. Marvel Strike Force is a free mobile squad RPG that allows you to battle with your favorite team of superheroes and supervillains in a fight to save the universe against threats like Doctor Doom and Apocalypse. I love the sheer amount of Marvel characters in this game and how they're always adding more all the time. Look, they have all of my favorite characters, a bunch of moody sad boys. I really like how Venom looks here. You know I'm very particular about my Venom costume designs, but I really like this model for him. I was playing this kind of on a quest to just get all of my specific favorite Marvel characters that I've read all their books for, so I need Moon Knight and then I'll be set. Yeah, I like my dark anti-heroes and then also Spider-Man. Download Marvel Strike Force using my link or QR code. Players can use the promo code SPIDEY to get Spider-Man, Hulk, and more rewards to build a stronger squad from day one. You better get on board now while this incredible limited time event lasts. I'll see you there. Now, back to the video.
Amazing Spider-Man! We are who we choose to be! Yo! No one says no to me!
This is how my story begins.
I'm not Superman, you know.
Today, you die, Spider!
No matter how much you want to hold on to a moment, can't stop time from moving on.
In a move that feels sort of like a passing of the torch from Neversoft to Treyarch, the first glimpse of this game came via the power of breakfast cereal. I can practically smell the Fruit Loops. If you sent in some proofs of purchase from Kellogg's branded cereal, you could get a disc containing a PC demo of the first few levels of Spider-Man 2000. But Spidey was retextured to match his silver-webbed movie counterpart, and all the billboards were replaced with shameless advertisements for sugary breakfast junk. It cuts off just after the Rhino boss fight, and they actually kept in most of the pre-rendered cutscenes with the comic Spidey costume. The disc also contained adverts and concept art for Spider-Man's upcoming movie tie-in game and more promotional material for the film. It's a bit strange for the demo for your upcoming game to be a quick asset flip of a totally different pre-existing game you didn't even develop, instead of like the game itself. But I suppose they didn't have anything ready yet to put in that disc and had to think on their feet to have something to show the kids at home. I'll give them points for creativity and problem solving, even if some may construe it as laziness. I was too young to participate in any of this stuff at the time, so I'm just mentioning it for historic record and because I think stuff like this is cute. Let's get to the game itself and see if it lives up to the cereal-infused hype. Oh man, I love being able to pull a game off the shelf, put the disc in my console, and then it plays immediately. I've had this disc for 24 years, and it still runs. And I still own this game, and I can play it anytime I want. Isn't that just the fucking best feeling?
The shareholders are all but invincible. But their revenue, we can destroy it.
I can't.
Betrayal must not be countenanced.
What do I do?
Instruct them in the matters of loss.
Tell me how!
The wallet, Osborne. First, we attack their wallets. I don't know where the rest of you guys have been. I've been pissed at Sony since they had me stabbed in the crotch in 2002.
Movie tie-in games weren't exactly a new concept in the early 2000s, considering the Atari and Nintendo systems had an abundance of low-quality ones for AVGN fodder. But I grew up in both the decade where they became the most high-effort and high-quality they had ever been, and the following decade where the game industry lost interest and stopped making them entirely. Spider-Man's first movie game from 2002 released actually a few weeks before the movie. I don't think my parents bought it until after we had seen the film in theaters, and thank God, because so many spoilers. The game loosely adapts the main action set pieces of the film in linear 3D levels, but also adds a lot of extra stuff just to give the player more to do, since you can't play scenes of Peter listening to his childhood crush pining to leave her abusive parents, or realizing his best friend is secretly dating his dream girl without telling him, even though they're roommates.
Oh, Harry.
The movie's got so much great Peter Parker melodrama, but you can't make that into a 3D platformer with lots of punching, so we're just kinda cutting around all that. Any game that blends both of these elements is a masterpiece! One of the biggest struggles of movie tie-in games always seem to be gamifying a movie with lots of scenes that aren't action-focused. Think about that really personal and dramatic scene where Peter Parker storms the warehouse to confront Uncle Ben's killer and effortlessly uses his superhuman powers to subdue him, but then he has a stunning realization that it's his fault Uncle Ben died because he didn't stop the criminal that robbed the fight promoter that cheated him. This is a really emotionally intimate and intense moment of guilt and grief that sets the tone for Spider-Man's entire superhero career. But for this, we have to stretch that out to 40 minutes of gameplay by saying that Carjacker is a member of a massive biker gang with dozens if not hundreds of members, and Spidey has to perform a siege on their huge multi-layered hideout and battle countless armed goons shooting at him, trying to run him over with a forklift, sabotaging the building's electricity so he can't progress. It's so much more over the top and silly, and that's how a lot of these sequences go. Just scrambling to take a 5-minute scene and then turn it into a whole level. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's cool to be able to kind of play the Amazing Fantasy 15 sequence as a game, since that'll likely never happen again, but it was executed in a very goofy way. Oh, this is like top 10 video game goon dialogue. This is better than the Arkham games. Listen to this.
Circus in town? Not so tough now, huh?
Tough guy, huh?
What's with the getup, chump? You beat those guys up? How embarrassing. Looks like the freak wants to play. So long, freak!
It's never gonna be better than that. The other way they pad out the game is by adding a bunch of stuff that wasn't even in the movie, just to give the player more to do and more variety of enemies. That means the next 2 hours of gameplay involves Spidey chasing the Shocker and his gang through New York's underground after a heist, and then scaling the inside of the Vulture's decaying clock tower hideout while he sets the place on fire. Then you have a sequence where Oscorp is trying to capture Spider-Man to use his DNA for the superpower enhancement Goblin formula, but Scorpion gets caught in the crossfire because he's also an arachnoid freak. Between this and the PS1 game, I was convinced as a child that this was Scorpion's main costume in the comics. Then as a teenager, I found out he only wore this for a brief window in the 90s and then never really again. bummer. I actually like this suit better than his green one, but that might just be the nostalgia talking. These sections are my favorite in the game by far because of how much it feels like it fills out the Raimi Spider-Man universe. In the movies, it's implied that the only costume supervillains he ever fights are the ones shown in the films, but I always like the idea that lesser-known, smaller threats popped up like this all the time for Spidey, and he just dealt with them off-screen similarly to how they're portrayed in these games.
So you must be Quilt Man, Padded Pete, Mr. Triple Ply? Oh, I've got it. The cushion.
I'm the Shocker.
Seeing him face off with these street-level, lower-tier villains is the closest Tobey Spider-Man ever felt to the comic version. It's cool to have a general idea of what Raimi Universe Vulture, Shocker, Scorpion, and Kraven would look like, since those movies never got around to those characters. Oh yeah, Kraven. So, in a move that has pissed me off since I was still learning to form words, Treyarch actually locked a few levels in this game exclusively to the Xbox version, and I never got to play them as a kid. So there's a whole subplot about Oscorp hiring Kraven to kidnap Spider-Man that I never got to see until I was a man. They robbed me, damn it! Thank God for the aftermarket, right? Otherwise, I'd never be able to play this copy, or I'd have to buy it full price from some online retailer that stops working every few months. Anyway, that definitely doesn't sound like J.K. Simmons.
Parker, get in here! What are you doing here? Why aren't you down at the zoo getting me pictures of this?
But I just...
Doesn't anyone do his job around here?
These two levels involve Spidey getting lured into a trap at the local zoo by Kraven and then having to dodge various traps and dangers while poisoned. The entire sequence is less than 15 minutes long at a leisurely pace, but it's got a nice bit of difficulty to it. I like how Kraven's boss arena has a lot of little extra rooms and hallways to duck into for health and webs while he's chasing you. It's not a huge loss to the overall game, but I do like having this in there, and it was cool getting to experience a part of this game I never got to play as a kid. I'm also realizing now that this game looks way better on Xbox. The graphics are just so much more crisp and HD, even certain HUD elements aren't nearly as pixelated and crackly. Wish I had known sooner that this copy looked so much better, or I wouldn't have recorded the majority of my gameplay footage on the PS2 copy. I'll have to keep that in mind for the future. Sorry if the rest of this video looks a little bit... Boss fights aren't anything too complicated. You don't need to do anything clever to beat them using the environment like the Neversoft villains. You just gotta punch them more than they punch you, or soften up their shields if they're a flying enemy. The giant robot is kind of random, considering it really doesn't have anything to do with anything else. Goblin's not even using it for his master plans, it's just in a massive empty room in Oscorp's Manhattan office because they're a villain corporation, I guess. It's definitely extremely lethal, I'm not doubting that, but it doesn't appear to be mobile, so I'm not sure if they could use it as a weapon of war because it would be impractical to transport something so large. It feels like it could only really exist in this room unless they dismantled it and shipped it in parts, but that would be a massive undertaking if this gate isn't an exterior loading bay. It doesn't open during the fight, so it's hard to say. And that's assuming they could even take it apart safely at this stage. To assemble and disassemble this robot, they definitely need a crane or two, considering the size of some components in the hull. I really think it's just meant to stay stationary here and kill any of Oscorp's political enemies they send through the door like a giant mechanical rancor. Whatever, it's a video game for children, I'm thinking too hard. So, I got a new microphone finally. Maybe it sounds a little different, I don't know. But what I didn't know was that my game capture software decided to record everything coming through that microphone for the first 4 or 5 hours of my gameplay without me noticing. That means we have my pure, completely unscripted reaction to the difficulty for 80% of this game. I had no idea I was being recorded, so I wasn't playing it up for the camera. I thought I was playing alone with my wife sitting on the couch on the other side of the room. Oh! I died. No!
You died.
So these reactions are as real as it gets. I was mad at first that I was recording myself without knowing because it does mess up the game audio in a few spots, and I did have to go back and re-record that. But I did realize that we got some funny stuff in there too, so I'll sprinkle that in for your viewing pleasure. Enjoy me raging because this game's kind of hard.
Oh!
Oh, my titties! Oh! Jesus! God.
I get it.
Fuck! Fuck! Ah! I'm gonna down there and then he's gonna beat the fuck out of me. Ready?
I can't.
The fight lasts less than 1 minute. Oh. He's putting those Nike flight posits right up my ass. Man, I'm glad he got glider pierced in the mons pubis. Fuck this guy.
At least kill a guy with a little class. Where's the dignity?
This game's hero difficulty is a lot more punishing than I remembered, but then again, I may have never actually played it before because I was always putting it on easy as a kid. The damage you take during melee combat is no joke, and the enemies are really plentiful during the early parts of the game, so it's easy to get mobbed if you don't start spamming that web cocoon thing move from the previous games. After replaying the Neversoft and Vicarious Visions Spider-Man games on PS1, I've come to really appreciate this early gameplay format for the character, and I'm glad that Treyarch used that as a base for this one. All the moves and controls you remember from the previous two games are still accessible here and function identically, like the web cocoon move for crowd control, the web gloves that deal extra damage, the big impact web attack. Really, the only thing different is that webbing up bad guys no longer damages them, and it just kind of holds them in place, which is kind of a pain in the ass when you've got so many enemies crowding you all at once. I think enemies with firearms pose a way greater threat here than the PS1 duology, because I found myself getting capped constantly in that first level. Jesus fuck. No! I don't know! They all have guns. The melee combat has been given a whole new layer of depth, with tons of new combos and animations. You unlock every move with these spider tokens hidden around the levels, which is nice for encouraging exploration, though I think you don't get the most opportunities to use these moves in regular gameplay because you're always getting ganged up on or shot at, so it's easier to just default to ranged web attacks or whatever will disperse the crowd. And boss fights are designed to counter most of these more elaborate moves, so I really didn't get to use the fancy stuff organically too often in my playthrough. Just gotta keep blindly mashing the same 3-hit combo and then running away before Gobby makes me regret it. The two biggest innovations Spider-Man the movie game adds to the character's gameplay loop are a redesigned system of web swinging that can account for combat against flying enemies, and stealth.
Hey! Where you going, Spider-Man? Ha! You're getting the girl. Saving the day. Yeah! Go, Spider-Man!
Rather than a short-range glide where you lose altitude with only 2 consecutive swings, Spidey can swing infinitely and raise and lower at your discretion, because you're encouraged to fight flying robots, the Vulture, and the Green Goblin in mid-air combat now.
Have more respect for my personal space!
It's not really the smoothest execution of the idea, but it works well enough, and it is fun getting a really meaty swing kick in, or slamming down on a bad guy's head from above. You can even shoot impact webbing while swinging too, which lets you still maintain some distance if you need to get some health.
Better save this for when I need it.
Oh yeah, there's pickup. You know, it's weird that this is the one Spider-Man that really doesn't need to go pick up webs, but they left that in, actually. I think it's at least nice that traversal webbing does not use up combat webbing. That's not the same resource now. The chase sequences from Spider-Man 2000 return with a vengeance, except this time they've added the wrinkle that villains will occasionally stop and endanger civilian lives to throw you off the trail, so you'll have to save the day before getting back on the hunt. This is a great way to spice up these chases and give you more time to see Spidey as a hero, rather than just a brute that smashes costume freaks into a bloody pulp. It fits the tone of the movie really well, and I like how the aerial boss fights get mixed into these chases and rescue sequences to make for the most dynamic villain encounters we've seen in a Spidey game so far. Like, I gotta chase this guy, fight him, and save people all at once. That's great. And there's stealth. It sucks. Stealth is not fun in a game where you have very limited control over your camera, so you can't really see where your enemies are, but they can see you very easily. There's no dedicated stealth attack, so if you want to sneak up on someone, you have to give yourself away and then just wail on them like a normal combat encounter, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. No, the play is just to sneak past them without fighting them at all to get the stealth bonuses, which is sometimes easy, sometimes extremely frustrating depending on the layout of that particular level. There's a sequence in the latter half of the game where you have to stealth around inside the Oscorp building to sneak past security guards and robots. And it's my least favorite part of this game. It takes the pacing to a grinding halt to deal with a really long, boring, tedious set of levels where you get spotted by robots and then blasted to bits. Holy fuck! Oh, Jesus! Oh my god! I found that the pacing of the levels is really weak here in general. The first hour of the game is just catching Uncle Ben's killer, then the next 2 hours are bouncing around with comic villains. Spidey has a single, albeit somewhat long, encounter with the Goblin, and then we spend an hour sneaking around Oscorp, kill a giant robot the size of Godzilla, then a quick chase scene and a boss fight, and then it just kind of ends. For one, I wish the encounters with comic villains were more evenly placed throughout the whole game instead of front-loaded into the first half. Meeting Vulture and Scorpion could have been after you meet the Goblin for the first time, so there's more of a proper mystery who the Goblin is, what's his connection to Oscorp, and how these other bad guys could factor into it. That's why having the Kraven missions really helps to break up the monotony of the latter half, and I think it was a terrible decision to cut those out for the PlayStation version. But the way they're implemented is also pretty distracting because it feels like they're shoehorned in between two scenes that are meant to be sequential. Like, he defeats Kraven and then just swings right back to where the Goblin was like no time has passed at all since their last battle. These two scenes actually make more sense on the PlayStation version without the Kraven stuff in the middle. This is so wonky. But beyond storytelling, I think the pacing hurts the gameplay because the first half is so heavy on melee combat and chase sequences, but the third act of the game is mostly spent tooling around badly designed stealth in Oscorp's office. Okay, then there's this cutscene where Spidey realizes the Goblin plans to target Mary Jane, and that raises the stakes.
Mary Jane. Goblin. No! I don't know how they figured out about MJ, but I have to get to her before Goblin does.
We've got to go save our girl, right?
I should be able to get back out the same way I got in, and only a couple zillion heavily armed androids between me and it. No prob.
Well, then they make you backtrack out of the office the way you came in while getting bombarded with robots. This level is the worst by far. It completely ruins the flow of the story. As the player, I'm jazzed about saving MJ, but now I'm forced to run through here, pressing buttons and fighting these fugitoids with terrible hitboxes that just always seem to be slightly out of reach of my kicks and punches. And then they have these damn grenades that you can't actually dodge. I wouldn't have imagined hanging out in the Oscorp building to take up such a huge chunk of the playtime, and I don't know why he would even bother going out the way he came in. Clearly he's not worried about damaging Oscorp property. He already sabotaged their chemical weapons division and their billion-dollar robot god in the basement. Why not just go out through this goddamn window in Norman's office? I really think these sections must be the result of them hitting some production difficulties, like running out of time or money or just needing some simple indoor levels to keep the runtime up. No huge explorable outdoor locations, recognizable New York landmarks they have to buy the license for, copyrighted supervillains that they have to make expensive effects and animations for. Just cram the player into some dark corridors doing busy work with puzzles. How do I get out? I can't exit.
Can I see?
Well, you have to make it follow the same pattern, but I can't fucking escape. I can't get out! There's no button to get out of this! Why would God do this? And fighting generic robots. And then after that, we rush to the lackluster final boss. I mean, yeah, he's tough, but by this point, we've already beaten Goblin once and seen everything he can do, so this encounter is just more of the same. His glider can attack you separately from him, which is cool, but not enough of a proper mechanic to make this fight all that special.
Mr. Osborn. Why?
Surprised? Yes, I suppose you would be. But the best surprise is still to come.
This game's retelling of the story is also strange because I don't think Norman ever actually finds out Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He just kidnaps Mary Jane because she was grateful for the save at the parade. But as far as Norman knows, that's just a completely separate, disconnected random civilian who kissed him over the mask. Well, I mean, she is his son's girlfriend. I'm not understanding why he kidnapped her, actually. Plus, Goblin doesn't really cement himself as Spidey's nemesis here because they only fought once before this final encounter. In the movie, they had battled on 3 separate occasions over the course of several months before the ultimatum on the bridge, which again is why I think these levels needed to be organized differently. But that's the trouble of making a whole game in a year and a half to meet the movie's release date, I suppose. A lot of tie-in games from back then had difficulty translating from screen to gameplay this same way, so this is kind of par for the course. Something this game did help pioneer for movie tie-in games was the idea of getting the film's cast to play their same characters.
Could have stopped you at the fight promoter's office. I could have saved Uncle Ben.
Though that apparently happened later than expected with this one, because they had the voice of young Disney Hercules record pretty much the whole game before replacing him with Tobey Maguire. Some lesser-known VA named, Josh Keaton! Wow, talk about having a destiny. No force in the universe was going to stop that guy from voicing Spider-Man eventually. But don't fret, his performance in this game wasn't lost, actually. When they got Tobey and Willem Dafoe to come in, they recast Keaton to play Harry Osborn instead, so he'd still make it to the final canon game with this just one cutscene. But then they added an alternate playable mode where Harry Osborn takes his dad's costume and becomes a heroic Green Goblin.
Using Dad's Goblin gear is just nuts. That weird invoice I found with Dad's stuff sure made it look like he was hiring the Skulls gang to do dirty work for him. I have to know what he was doing. Look out, Skulls. There's a new Green Goblin in town.
So they could let you play a slightly modified version of the game with him as the lead, and they use Keaton's unused voice lines instead. Sure, they had to add some to remind you that he's not Peter Parker, but he's just way too good in the role.
Before you go, I lost my purse on one of the rooftops around here.
On a different rooftop?
Yes.
Different from this one?
Yes.
Are you crazy? Do you just gallivant from rooftop to rooftop?
Yes.
Okay, whatever. I'll go find your purse.
Thank you. Before you go, I lost my purse on one of the rooftops around here.
On a different rooftop?
Yes.
Different from this one?
Yes.
Are you serious? Are you taking some kind of tour of city rooftops?
Yes.
Okay, whatever. I'll find your purse for you.
Thank you.
Is this the first video game that literally lets you go Goblin mode? It's funny though, because Keaton plays Spidey as confident, quick-witted, charming, and kind-hearted, but they have to apply that performance to James Franco's Harry Osborn, who is none of those things. Even if it took another 6 years, Josh Keaton was going to be the voice of Spider-Man for a whole generation of kids. I actually wouldn't say no to a mod that replaces Tobey's voice lines with Keaton's in the standard game, either. Like the voice option thing in Saints Row 4 that just lets you pick between Troy Baker or Nolan North. This isn't just a simple reskin. Harry's got his own entire set of moves. He can use the glider, all of the Goblin gadgets, and a bunch of mechanics you'd never see as Peter. This is a really cool extra mode that adds a ton of replay value, because they even went so far as to change the story so it would make sense that Harry is fighting another Goblin.
It's about time we met Osborn. Go ahead and save the girl, if you can. Your father hired me to kill Spider-Man. He gave me the suit and some razorbacks.
Liar! Shut your mouth!
They even got Willem Dafoe to play this unnamed mercenary character for the alternate mode. I like to think that maybe he's some kind of weird Raimi Universe Hobgoblin or Bart Hamilton or something.
Oh, I get it. You're a disgruntled guidance counselor.
Even if he doesn't have a canon name. This is incredibly high effort for a secret unlockable. I'm really blown away by all of this. It's like a whole new game. All that being said, Spidey's dialogue is great. This is back when the character was still allowed to have a personality and dignity. The script they wrote for him is perfect, even if Tobey's performance doesn't totally match the energy.
Chemical weapons? That's a definite no-no. Now, Vulture, you can't go around taking things that don't belong to you. What kind of example does it set for impressionable youngsters out there?
Most of his line readings are pretty damn flat, but every once in a while he does a decent one that gets the character's vibe right.
Is that like a sweepstakes? I always throw those away. Nice outfit, by the way. Where's Siegfried?
He seems to have a hard time reading the more confident, sarcastic, comic Spidey-style quips. You could just tell they weren't working him too hard with the voice direction, or he wasn't totally used to doing this sort of thing. Meanwhile, Willem Dafoe was over here killing it. He's just as intense and expressive in the game as he was in the movie.
Come on, show me what you got, fool. I've offered you the world and you've thrown it away.
He was born for this.
Fortnite.
Regardless, with this game's financial and critical success, a precedent had now been set that you could get the actual movie actors to voice these games, and it became a more common occurrence soon after. I get the sense that the mentality of game voice performances in the 2000s was just the same as doing general marketing tour stuff. Like, the game wasn't seen as a whole extra acting job in itself that would require as much focus and effort as a movie would, but it was just the same as doing a commercial or a press interview or recording the voice chip in an action figure or something, which would explain why these voice performances sound so flat and phoned in most of these games.
Dinosaurs? Wonderful.
I want what you got out, Banner.
I think they're trying to kill us.
Yes! Thank you, Tony, for making a suit that can handle that.
Same plan.
What's your piece?
Same plan. Same plan.
We expect your full cooperation. Welcome to the Army.
They were contractually obligated to get in there and half-ass their way through that booth session, so that's just what they did.
All right, you Poindexters, let's get this right. 1, hey, kids, I'm talking Krusty. 2, hey, here comes Slideshow Mel. 3, bada bing, bada boom, I'm done. Learn from a professional, kid.
Now that games have gotten so massive and arguably gained a little more respect as a medium, you see a lot less of this kind of thing. If a well-known celebrity shows up in a video game, they had to actually put some work in because it takes so much longer now to scan their likeness, record dozens of hours of dialogue, and motion capture cutscenes. But the way they used to do this will kinda never happen again, and maybe that's a good thing. They could never get Tom Holland to play Spider-Man in an entire video game the way they did with Tobey. He'd be too expensive, too busy, and the production cycle of games went from something like 18 months to 5+ years, so forget it. But let's not forget the best celebrity voice actor in this game, who does not sound like a deer in headlights on the mic.
This is incredible! Am I really doing this?
Well, you're easily impressed, aren't you?
The man, the myth, the groovy legend, Bruce Campbell. For whatever reason, it truly does not matter, they got him to voice over the game's tutorials and training mode, where he both guides you through the game and talks to you like you're an obnoxious dumbass.
Oh, and for those of you with short-term memory issues, which would be most of you, you can check out a list of the combos you've unlocked in the paused menu.
It's perfect. Never once when I played this game as a kid and laughed at this tutorial did I think one day I'd have him trash-talking me while playing video games in person as a part of my actual job. Go check out that video if you haven't already. That was a lot of fun.
Good job, kid. You might just make something of yourself after all. Good luck. You're gonna need it.
In terms of other unlockables, there's a few model swaps for Spidey so you can play the game as other characters like Shocker, Peter Parker, Mary Jane. Hey, that caused some controversy. And, ew! And a few other NPCs. You can even play as that guy. The coolest one is definitely the unused Alex Ross design from the movie. Wearing it even unlocks an alternate concept design for Goblin, too. With future hindsight, you can just pretend this is a sick, superior Spider-Man unlockable since he ended up claiming that design in canon. Otherwise, that's it for alternate costumes, which is a bit of a letdown considering the last 2 games set a precedent that you could have a ton of them, but maybe they didn't want to detract from the movie tie-in of it all by letting you wear a bag on your head in a Fantastic Four uniform. You can do this goofy bowling mode, that's kind of fun.
Peter, stop! Stop! It's me!
While I'm definitely happy to get a third game in the style and gameplay as the PS1 Spidey duology, I think this is my least favorite of the 3. It contributes some cool stuff to the overall gameplay loop of Spidey games that will be improved by future installments, but it also struggles with keeping its levels and pacing interesting after those elements are first introduced. The parts I love most about this game are actually when it's not trying to adapt the movie, and the parts I like the least are when it does, because it does it in kind of a messy way that ends up not really doing justice to the story of the 2002 film, or having to really stretch for anything they could make into a usable level. I honestly probably would have enjoyed this more if it was another adventure with the comic Spidey set in that world and using this gameplay to fight more comic bad guys. You could fight the Beetle in this format, it could work. We can do the sky punching now. Somehow, despite playing this game since I was 4 years old, my nostalgia senses aren't really tingling enough to distract from the fact that I never really loved this one like I did with its predecessors. Like, yeah, overall it's fine, but better Spidey games came before and after it, so it's left in a weird place for me. Either way, all that matters is that I can still play the goddamn thing whenever I want.
Oh no! What have you done? We're doomed!
Special thanks to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring this video. Check it out at the link below or use my QR code to get a fresh start in honor of Spider-Man Brand New Day. Players can use the promo code SPIDEY to get Spider-Man, Hulk, and more rewards to build a stronger squad from day one. I always get mad at YouTube for not putting my videos in the subscription box because people will comment, "Finally, Xavier uploads again after all these years," not knowing 3 other videos came out within the last month already. So maybe that stupid bell icon thing will help you remember I exist. If you want other ways to support the channel, you can always go hit up that Patreon for early videos and exclusive stuff because it's just $1. I'm not kidding, it's only $1. Isn't that cool? If just 5% of the people subscribed to me donated only $1 a month, I could make videos even faster and keep my house. You can also check out our merch on TeePublic, or just buy some of my random stuff on eBay. I have a pretty substantial collection of old toys that are still in the box in perfect condition, so go take a look in case you find something you like. And lastly, since this is a YouTube video and you probably play Fortnite, drop my creator code XavierGM next time you buy a silly dance or a cool character skin. Really helps me out. See you next time!